Locked on Boston College here. BC football 2 days into practice. What have we learned about it? We're going to give you all the inside scoops and what you should be expecting out of football this week on today's Locked on Boston College.
You are Locked on Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked on Boston College. AJ Black here. I'm the editor and publisher of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Sports Network. Today, I am joined by the now married Mitch Wolfe. Mitch, how's it going?
It's going good. It's been a while since I've been on. I've been busy getting married, moving across the country, starting a new job, all that stuff. But it's good to be back. Obviously, it's very exciting that BC is back in fall camp, and I'm excited to get to talk about it again.
Yeah, so BC had their first two practices on Friday and Saturday, and press conferences with Jeff Hafley, Phil Jurkovec, and a variety of other players over the last couple days. Now, the big one of the, when I'm listening to a press conference, I want to find the good nuggets. You can listen to a press conference and listen to Phil Jurkovec talk about how excited he is about a upcoming season, and Jeff Hafley saying how excited he is and all that stuff. All that's white noise to me. I look for the good stuff. And one of the big pieces that came up was Jurkovec's press conference, in which he said one of his goals this year is to avoid taking hits. Now, if you remember, Jurkovec missed a good chunk of 2021 with a fluky injury, as he called it, which is it's true. That's kind of what it was. But 2020, he talked about all these middling injuries, I think is the word he used, that kind of piled up and led up to him missing more time. Mitch, my big question is, when you look at Jurkovec, is it going to be is it ingrained in him to take these hits, or do you think he can actually learn to kind of get away from it?
I think that it's a little bit in the middle, little column A, little column B. I think that obviously part of Phil Jurkovec's game is being able to stand in the pocket, take not like massive hits, but, escape from defenders physically and then get out of the pocket. And like, that's why he drew so many comparisons to Ben Roethlisberger in his first year at BC, where he would, get tackled around the legs, kind of spin out of it and get outside and make a play downfield. Last year, obviously, he didn't play as much. And when he did come back, he was somewhat limited. So there wasn't as much of that. But I think that especially when he's, running, if he is carrying the ball and running downfield, there are a lot of opportunities for him to not take as many hits. I remember, I think it was the Florida State game where he was running downfield and was getting big hit after big hit against the Florida State defense. Might have been Wake Forest as well, where he just needs to learn how to slide, which I looking into his background, he didn't play baseball, so he doesn't have that in his bag. He played basketball, so it's much different, He's thinking more about charging down the lane, trying to draw a foul as opposed to, getting down with his legs going first. So, that changing that mentality to try to protect yourself is a big thing. And I think that is probably what he's talking about. But I think in terms of taking hits in the pocket, it's more about, teaching yourself how to try to contort your body when you are going down, so you don't land fully on your shoulder, on your arms, because that's kind of how he has had those wrist and shoulder injuries the last 2 years.
It's like that NCAA video, and I think it's a BC player.
It's Reddick. Yeah, it's Chase Reddick.
Where that I post that all the time as a joke, but it really, how far off is that actually from a movie? Like, if you haven't seen it, I'll give you some context. There's a clip going around about, it's like a glitch in NCAA. I don't know which one it is, 13, 14, something like that, where it's Chase Reddick going back to pass, and he's getting sacked, and he's going backwards as he's getting sacked, and throws the ball on a perfect dime to Alex Amadon flying down the field. How far off is that actually from what Jurkovec kind of does?
I think there was one play against, I want to say North Carolina last year, where he threw it, he essentially threw it away out of bounds, but that exact same play actually happened. I think more so it's about kind of, if you're getting sacked, tucking the ball into yourself and then trying to kind of twist your torso one way or the other, so you kind of fall on your front or your back, not on your side. I think, because if you think about, I think Aaron Rodgers had that injury, and that was kind of where the NFL started trying to kind of flag those penalties where defenders land with the whole weight of their body on the quarterback, and especially the quarterback on his side. that's where you get those shoulder injuries. And I think that's kind of what happened with Jurkovec. I think it was against Clemson where he suffered that injury,
Yeah,
where
he
he
was
got
getting
driven into the
destroyed
ground.
he was getting
Yeah,
destroyed in that game.
Exactly.
And I don't even want to think of that offensive line against our offensive line against that defensive line this year, but
yeah,
we'll get into that when we get there, right? So, I think as you said, it really is a blend for Jurkovec, because if he goes from being a guy, as you said, that can actually tear off, defenders, and instead just goes to sliding all the time, he's not going to be as effective as he was. He's going to be just any other quarterback out there. It's part of what makes him him. So, but you're right. I think like those moments where Jurkovec is like battling, especially some of the times too, where he's like battling for just like a useless extra yard. Like some of those times too, I feel like just get down,
Yeah. And there were times where he kind of knew to get out of bounds when he was running. And I think that even just doing that, if he is close to the sideline, like not only will that, help protect you, but if you do get hit, at the sideline, you might draw a penalty, which I remember, I think it was it was a long time ago. It might've been even 2016 when, no, it was 2018 when the BC defense hit Eric Dungy late on the sideline and drew a big flag, and he was a pretty fiery player, and kind of that galvanized them to get a big victory. And what that year that Syracuse was actually good. Yeah. But even that's a way where you can, help your team by trying to protect yourself and not necessarily trying to go all out just to get that extra meaningless yard, like you said.
And now while we're talking Jurkovec here, I want to continue bringing him up a little bit. NFL scouts, what do you think they need to look for? What do you think they're going to be looking for from Jurkovec this year?
Accuracy in the quick game. It's something we've talked about a lot, and that's the big thing, because that's what the NFL boils down to. Like, can you be consistently accurate on quick and short throws? Because if you can't do that, then they're really not going to put you on the field, because yeah, sure, he can bomb it, 50, 60 yards down the field. But, I think about essentially, like, if he doesn't do that, then he kind of becomes like a Drew Lock-esque player where, like, yeah, he can hit some of those big shots at times and make some plays with his legs, but you can't really rely on him to consistently operate an offense on a down to down or even a game by game basis. So, and I think that's something that McNulty is really going to install with this year with this new offense, where, some might call them gimmicks, quick RPOs, quick passes, that kind of like screens and stuff. But that's something where Jurkovec has had some issues, like completing those easy screens with good accuracy to maximize yards after catch. And that's something that the NFL scouts are going to want to see. So, just being more consistent in that area of the field is something that I think he really needs to display in 2022.
Absolutely. And it's going to be interesting to see, he's such a volatile player in terms of his NFL draft stock. Mm-hmm. He could go real high. If he struggles, he's going to fall. He's going to really crater. And it's obviously not what you want to see happen with Jurkovec. Now, in our second segment, I'm going to continue on our camp talk, and I want to look a little bit into Jaden Woodbey and Jason Maitre, and talk to Mitch a little bit about the defensive backs and their versatility and what that means to Boston College's defense. We'll get into that in just a moment. Now, as you gear into fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and free. Create a free job and post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and the purple #hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so that your network can help you find the right person to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Now, right now, LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black. I am the editor and publisher of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Sports Network. And if you have not done so already, we have a special deal on our site to become a VIP member, where we have Q&As, premium content up, every day. You can get in for just less than $5 a month. It's 50% off right now up until I think it's 8 p.m. today. So you want to make sure you head over to Eagle Insider and sign up and become part of the growing BC community that is actually really great on that site. So if you want to check that out, you make sure to do that right now. Now we're here with Mitch Wolfe and we're talking about summer camp for BC football, just 2 days in. And before we get into it, I want to kind of give you guys that are listening a more realistic expectation of what you should expect from the media as they cover this, because there was some stuff that came up with some readers and people online that are asking questions. And I'm like, I can't get into that because I don't even know. So covering Boston College in spring, media gets to go for a half hour to those practices that it's open. And those are, a couple a week. The half hour they give us is the beginning of every practice, which is stretching and warming up for a good 15, 20 minutes. And then you can watch a few quick drills for 10. So for folks that are looking for me to say, whoa, did Owen Stodmeyer rise up the depth chart? And how about Quan Williams? How did he look? I don't get to see any of that. It's not how it works. So I just want to be realistic with you. I'm looking for what I can at these practices, but I don't get to watch, them implementing their scheme or how McNulty's scheme looks different than Signetti's. I'm just being realistic here so you guys know what I can and can't tell you, because I don't see the other stuff. They cut it off, and then you go to the press conference at the end of the day. So just a side little note there for those who want to know how it works. So Mitch, we're talking summer program here, talking summer camp, and I got to talk to Jason Maitre and Jaden Woodbay on Friday. Both guys talked a lot about the versatility of the defensive backs. Now, Maitre, as we know, he went from corner to safety, and he was kind of vague about where he's going to go this year. Woodbay, he could play almost everywhere on the defense. How important is this to a defense to have guys, and it's not just them. Josh DeBerry can play nickel. He can play outside. CJ Burton can do the same thing. How important it is for Jeff Hafley and his style of defense to have guys that you can plug and play all over the place?
I think it's extremely important. And the obvious, reason would be injuries. If one guy goes down, you can move people around and not have a big drop off in player performance. So that's the one thing. And we saw, DeBerry went out for a game. I think, Woodbay missed some time here and there. Maitre missed most of last season. I think it was last season. Yeah. Yep. So that happens. But the other part of it is just being able to have a scheme where the offense doesn't really know how to attack it, and you can disguise what coverages you're running. If you look at just the body types of Maitre and Woodbay, they're pretty standard for a free and strong safety respectively. But if you can line up in a too high shell where the two safeties back deep pre-snap, but the offense doesn't know which one is going to rotate down into the box after the snap, that's a huge advantage because they don't necessarily know where to attack on the defense. And Maitre is smaller, obviously, I think he's 5'10", 5'9", 190 pounds on a good day, but I'll never forget the play where he came downhill and really knocked DJ Uiagalelei back on a 3rd and 2 to force a 4th down punt. That was a huge play and DJ Uiagalelei he's half a foot taller and outweighs him by 75 pounds, if I had to guess. Yep. And that was a huge play for him. So, if you're rotating Maitre down into the box or even into the slot, to defend the run on certain plays, you're not worried about it because he's shown the ability to come up and make those key tackles. And Woodbay, it's the same way. You're not worried about him at all because he's 6'2", 225. With Woodbay, it's interesting because him playing in a lot of roles for the defense. I think I'm curious if the defense is going to be playing a lot more dime personnel, given the lack of depth at linebacker and the good depth on the defensive back, the secondary side. Because you think about you want DeBerry, you want Jones, you want Woodbay, you want Maitre, you probably want Burton out there. So that's 5 guys that are good. If you think about adding another one, I'm not exactly sure who would be at this point.
Amari Jackson, maybe.
Probably Amari Jackson, Cole Batson, Sione Hala, any of those guys, depending on the personnel. Or even if you wanted to, switch out a normal linebacker for one of the smaller edge rushers that they have, your Donovan Ezarakus, Nito Ekpalas, get some more pass rushing help on 3rd downs or passing downs. And sub out a normal linebacker. So essentially you've kind of a 5-1-5 defense. So you have 5 defensive linemen on line of scrimmage. You have 1 linebacker, presumably Cam Arnold, and then you have 5 defensive backs. I think you could see a lot of moving pieces with the secondary. And that is, you want that because, again, that confuses an offense because they can't predict, okay, like if certain guys are lined up in a certain place, they don't necessarily know where they're going to be after the snap or where they're going after the snap.
It was funny watching practice. One of the things I did notice was Hafley talking, specifically about the defensive backs. At the ACC Media Day, he said he wanted to be more involved with the offense.
Mm-hmm.
And the media called him out because when we were walking by, who was he working with? The defensive backs. and he goes, yeah, you guys caught me. I got to do better at this.
Yeah. And that's kind of the charm of Hafley is I think he like knows where, like how he needs to improve every year. But there are just times where he just kind of reverts to his, base nature, which, and he knows, he's like, listen, like, this is what I love. Like, I mentioned before on the show, like I'm a Steelers fan, and like Mike Tomlin, obviously he's a head coach and one of the better head coaches in the NFL, but in training camp this year, even though there's a major position battle at the quarterback position, like he's still just super involved with the safeties and the defensive, like on the defensive side of the ball. Like football coaches are seriously creatures of habit. So it's hard. It's gonna be hard for any of them to break to that kind of tendency.
All right. So we're going from a position of strength, the defensive backs. And you're right. Like Sione Hala, Jaden Woodbay, who went from the same high school, is saying this guy's going to play this year. And he's gonna be a major contributor to the offensive line, and specifically the interior of the offensive line. Now, one of the things I wanted to bring up too is that Hafley mentioned that they're going to be cycling all sorts of combinations. So the first practice, it looked like Otto Hess was the starting guard when they had the very limited opening that we could watch. He was the starting guard with the four guys that you expected: Ozzie Trapillo, Finn Durstein, Drew Kendall, and Jack Conley. You look at pictures today, and they got Dwayne Alec at center, Drew Kendall at guard, Finn Durstein at tackle. So there's, so what Hafley's doing, and Googs and John McNulty, is they're trying every combination. But is that going to be enough, Mitch? Are you still worried about the interior of this offensive line?
I very much am. And, even if we kind of know that, Mahogany's out for the year. And so that is what it is. And, I'm pretty confident in Ozzie Trapillo playing well. I can't imagine a world where Jack Conley is worse, especially in pass protection, than he was last year. So, you kind of expect him to improve at least a little bit. But the interior is really concerning for me, because if they get another injury there, kind of, whether it's Durstein, Kendall, or Hess/Klein, whoever's the other starter at guard, like it's a pretty rough depth chart. You're looking at guy, you mentioned Dwayne Alec, who's bounced between sides of the ball, hasn't really played much. Blair Mastimi, who's been on the roster a long time but hasn't played much. And there's just not a lot of depth. So if there's one more injury, then you're getting some big concerns at a position group that's already really concerning. I think, if we think about when Hafley first came in and they kind of shuffled the entire offensive line around for the 2020 season, that he's kind of trying to just get his five best guys out there, and then try to put them in the best position to succeed for the team. I think, he kind of learned his lesson there, where it's like, oh, we're not just going to put our best guy at a position. We're going to try to see where guys really do fit the best for their skill sets. So I don't expect Finn Durstein to be playing tackle. Kendall playing guard wouldn't shock me too much, given that he is a true freshman, or not true freshman. He's a freshman, and they might want to ease him in by playing guard. But I still think it's going to be Conley, Durstein, Kendall, some combination of Klein or Hess, and then Trapillo at right tackle.
Yeah, and just one other name to watch for, and I don't honestly even know where he falls in terms of their depth chart, is they did receive a transfer from a guard over the summer, and Christian Curatolo from Lehigh. And your first probably gut reaction is to go, Lehigh, what the hell? Why would we put a guy like that? But then remember, where did Zion Johnson come from? Davidson. So you don't know where your talent's going to come from. This kid did play for Malvern Prep, which is a good school. So he may be a guy that rises up the depth chart as well.
We'll see. I think Zion Johnson is more of the outlier than the rule.
True, but he's there. So that's just one name to watch for. Now, in a moment, I'm going to give Mitch the mic for a moment. And I want to get his perspective. I've talked a lot over the summer, and I want to get his perspective of three guys to watch for as summer camp kind of trucks along here. But before we get into that, betonline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. You can do anything from game odds to player props. I love doing player props. I've been on a Pete Alonso of the Mets kick over the last couple of weeks, and it's been paying off over and over, doing over and unders on the amount of total bases he gets. And it's been hitting over and over. So been a lot of fun with that. Now, BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information. From live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they have got you covered. Head to the BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. Happy Monday for all of you, and thank you for every single person out there that has made Locked On Boston College your first listen every morning. If you want to get your Boston College news, you got to come over here. We're going to give it to you. We're going to give it to you in a nice 20-minute episode that you can listen to as you're doing a walk, going to work, doing dishes, whatever you want to do. But just make sure you're listening, and I want to thank you. All right, now, Mitch, I'm going to give him the floor here because I've been talking all about different players for the last month and a half. Mitch, who are 3 players that you're going to watch for over the summer?
So I'm going to start with a few that kind of stuck out in the spring game, and their performances from that game are still in my mind. And one is Xavier Coleman, the running back / wide receiver, redshirt freshman, I believe. And he made a big play in the spring game where he had a big long reception for a touchdown. And I think he's going to be a big X factor in this offense, and that they can use him in a variety of ways as an outside or slot receiver and as a running back, catching passes out of the backfield, screen passes, jet sweeps, what have you, getting the ball in his hands to make explosive plays after the catch, because that's what a big part of this offense is going to be looking for this year is get the ball out of Phil's hands a little quicker, especially with a questionable offensive line, and let the guys who are big playmakers, make plays with the ball. Zay Flowers, Jalen Gill are the 2 obvious ones. Pat Garwo to some extent just in a different way. But Xavier Coleman really presents a different kind of skill set this team. In Zay Flowers, they've had it, but if you think about Zay Flowers kind of his freshman year, where he was really that jet sweep specialist and occasional deep ball, you kind of want to think about Coleman that way, and maybe he can be a little more consistently and properly used than Flowers was as a freshman. My other one is Ty Clemens, who I think if you go by some certain counting stats from the spring game, he had like 6 sacks or something.
Yep.
And I'm really excited. He had a big game against Temple last year, but then his playing time kind of fell off as they gave more playing time to the seniors like Valdez, Brandon Barlow, and Shida Salah. But I'm really excited for Ty Clemens. He has a more traditional defensive end build at, I think, 6'2" or 3 and 260 pounds, as opposed to guys like Ezraku and Ekpala, who are a lot smaller. But I'm really excited for Clemens' potential. I'm not. We're still kind of questioning Shida Salah's abilities. It's in terms of consistency. So I'm wondering, how much playing time does Clemens get, and can he capitalize on that? Third guy.
Before you get to your third guy, I want to jump in. I'm sorry, this is your time, but I want to jump in. How quick do you think? So Salah has been he's kind of a hot topic among BC fans, because some people are saying, just like you said, like we've been waiting forever for him to become that guy. How quickly do you think, in your perspective, Hafley will pull the trigger to move on to one of these younger guys if Salah's not doing what he needs to do?
I'm not sure it's going to be like a complete benching. I think the great thing about having, a guy like Salah, you do have a guy who is experienced, but then, you can try to get some other guys on the field. And like I said, I think they're going to try to experiment with some different personnel packages where Salah's on the field, but along with Valdez and Clemens and Ezraku or Ekpala, have a lot more of those edge rusher types to get some speed after the quarterback. So I don't think it's going to be just like a complete pull the plug, but it might just be, he goes from playing 70% of the snaps down to 55 and then 45 or something. And, that could happen over the course of the season. If there's like they have some good opponents early on, like Clemson, and if he's just really not getting anything done against quality opponents, then maybe he does make a more severe move to just say, all right, like, listen, maybe we'll play on base downs because you are a little bigger than guys like Ekpala and Ezraku, but we need some more juice on pass rushing downs, which you're just not offering at this point.
Excellent. Okay, continue on, Mitch.
So my third guy, and I mean, this is kind of cheating because he was arguably the jewel of the class, but it's Joseph Griffin Jr. I feel like every year BC has one breakout wide receiver in summer/fall camp. Last year was Jaden Williams, who was catching touchdowns all over the place, and he had a strong start to the year, but then kind of fizzled off as the year went on. And given how the other receivers are going to be used, specifically Flowers and Gill, that X receiver position is still open. And we've talked a lot about Tajee Johnson and see if he can finally capitalize after several strong springs. But I think Griffin might quickly overtake him because he's another big body guy who can really play that X receiver role properly. And, him getting downfield and then winning 50-50 balls that Jurkovec can throw him, down the field. That's another way that they can, maybe not have to rely on this offensive line to hold up on these longer developing routes. Just like, Phil takes a quick 5-step drop and then just flings it deep for Griffin Jr. to go get. I'm not sure that there's, Johnson really hasn't shown that kind of deep speed consistently. I'm not sure there's any other guys in the roster that have that, combination of size and athletic ability that Griffin offers. So, I'm kind of hoping that he has the start similar to Jaden Williams had last year, and then he can parlay that into a more consistent freshman season as well.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it. We have YouTube exclusive bonus episodes. If you've not checked them out yet, you go to YouTube, look up Locked On BC. I did one right after camp started on Friday, and Joseph Griffin was the name on everyone's mouth. They talked about him. Jeff Hafley talked about him, and they were asked about him, but specifically, they called him an athletic freak, I think was the name Jalen Gill used for him. And you get special players. And when we knew he was coming up, Joseph Griffin was a guy that I think had more offers that were publicized. He's not a very public guy in terms of like throwing up every offer he has. I know Ohio State was very interested in him. I know Notre Dame was very interested in him. I would not be surprised if either of them offered him and he just didn't post it. He's definitely a game changer. And I was talking to Andy Backstrom after practice on Friday, and we're talking about how BC has a bunch of guys, Jalen Gill, Zay Flowers, Jaden Williams, that have kind of a similar build and can do a lot of the same things. Mm-hmm. As you just said, that X receiver is what you need. You need a guy like Tajee, a guy like Joseph Griffin that can do that extra thing to get up, to get those big balls, especially now that CJ Lewis is gone. Mm-hmm. And just based off of what I heard, I love Tajee Johnson. I mean, he was just nominated for like the Community Service Award. If you've listened to anything about him, he's huge on campus in terms of a lot of social justice.
I think it's the Danny Werfel Trophy.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
But he does a whole bunch, like he did a whole bunch of different things for like social justice kind of things, but really important kind of work. He's really into that. So I want to see him succeed, but I also want to see Griffin get his time. But when you have, it's never that a bad thing to have that many weapons, right?
Yeah, I mean, competition, improves the quality of the play. So, if one guy, it's basically, if Griffin's dominating, that should inspire guys like Johnson and Jaden Williams to, play better because, I think a lot of times about Jaden Williams, having a lot of drop issues and especially like over the middle, which when you're a 5'9", 180-pound receiver, you're probably a little more scared to go over the middle than a guy like Tajee Johnson or Joseph Griffin. And that's completely understandable. And, think about CJ Lewis, even last year, he didn't play that much, but when he did, a lot of those catches came where he was running crossing routes over the middle because he's a bigger guy and wasn't necessarily afraid to take that contact. And if Griffin can display that as well, you think about some of the guys that Notre Dame has had in the past. And I know McNulty wasn't there that long, but they've had a lot of those big X receiver types, like Miles Boykin, Chase Claypool, Javon McKinley. They've had a lot of big, like 6'3", 200. Who was the guy this year? Kevin Austin. Skoranek. He was transferred from Notre Dame or Northwestern, and then Kevin Austin Jr. this year, who I think is on an NFL roster. So like they like having that big X receiver that can go down the field and win vertically. So I think Griffin is going to have a role in this offense given his physical build and athletic talents.
All right, Mitch, it was so great to have you on. I heard buzz that some people think we had beef.
Yeah, my friend, shout out Anthony Gallo, he was like, should I stop listening because you guys are like not doing anything anymore? I was like, no, I've just been busy.
Yeah, it was summer months, and I'm glad that the summer is over from a writing and coverage perspective, because I'm over here trying as best as I can to talk about football, and I know Mitch was super busy, so it's like just me doing it on my own. But no, guys, Mitch is great. He's over with me at Eagle Insider now too, doing some stuff. So Mitch, talk about what you're doing right now for Eagle Insider.
You can find me at Mitchell T. Wolfe, WOLFE on Twitter. I'm starting our opponent preview series. So we published the offensive preview for Rutgers. The defensive preview should be coming out, if not today, very soon.
Tomorrow, yep.
We're just kind of going on
Monday, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, so we'll be breaking down BC's opponents. Not sure how I'm going to find film for Maine, but we'll see what we can do. And then I'm also working with the 33rd Team, which is a website, kind of a football think tank. A lot of really cool NFL personnel there. I'm their editor of DFS and betting content. So if you, AJ mentioned, BetOnline, if you want any insight on who to bet on or who to play in daily fantasy or just regular fantasy football, then make sure you're heading over to the 33rd Team.
All right, Mitch, thank you so much, and we'll see you again next week.
Oh yeah, I'll absolutely be back. I got time.
All right, excellent. So thank you again. And this is AJ Black. You can follow me on Twitter at AJ Black_BC. I am the editor of Eagle Insider. Make sure to follow us on our website, hit that star button, become a VIP member so you can chat with us on our site and get all of our premium updates. We're going to have Brian Doan on our site today in the morning. If you're listening to this in the morning, he is one of our national recruiting experts. He's going to talk all about BC recruiting and answer all sorts of questions on our message board. If you sign up this morning and get that 50% off deal, you can go and check out what Brian has to say about the future of BC recruiting. This is not something you're not going to want to miss. So check that out. This is AJ Black. Again, we'll be back tomorrow to talk more about summer camp and more updates as we go along.